Hi guys, it is 2:28 and we're going to go live here in just 2 minutes for the pitch submissions. So I'm going to share this real quick. And then we are going, if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat windows. But we have 9 teams. 9 teams today pitching. Live. Okay. Starting 1 minute.
One star.
Let's do this. Right now.
From now.
Yeah.
Okay. You're ready.
Okay.
It's not that
We're going to do here.
I can adjust it too. If you're gonna be up there, I can.
All right, Carly, you ready? Don't say. Don't the order. See something?
Introduce the judges,
Yes. Okay.
and then start calling people up.
Okay.
Okay, guys. That clock is slower on fast.
You're perfect.
Okay. Hey, you guys, 2:30. We're doing pitches right now. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. All right, guys. We are at the end of our day. Thank you so much for spending your time and energy on your little brain cells today. We're tired. We didn't even do anything. We're exhausted. We're ready to curl up in a ball and go to sleep. So you guys must be ready to finish up. So first things first, we want to thank our judges today. We have 5. We've got James. Hi, James. He is site reliability at Microsoft. We have Ben, who works on SharePoint on Microsoft. Thank you. Sylvia, she's a senior data scientist here at Microsoft. We got Sophie, she's an engineer at Apple. Siobhan she's an engineer at VRBO. So thank you so much for you guys judging us. Did I say it wrong? Verbo. Okay. Some people don't know what. Okay. We have 9 teams on site going to pitch. So how it works is a 2-minute demo, 1-minute Q&A. We're timing you. You get no more than 3 minutes. Okay, this is the order. That's how it's gonna go. Carly. Is that the number 1 team? Is that your team name?
Careerly.
I'm
like, I'm sorry.
It's Dr. Scribbles here. Number 2 is MilSpouse Info Hub. Number 3 coming up will be Rank Up. Number 4 will be Due North. 5 will be Pocket PCS. 6, VA Home Loans. 7. Post TP. EP. Post EP. 8. MilSpouse Career Connect. And the last one is Mill Advisor. Okay? We got, looks like Amber, and you get the mic.
Oh, no.
No? No. Oh, no.
All right, you guys timing?
I got it.
All right. While Amber sets it up, my name is Anna. Hello, everyone. Amber and I are working on Careerly. The project really focuses on getting military spouses the jobs that they need. So there are a lot of different jobs out there that military spouses can fill, and there are a lot of military spouses that can also fill those jobs. but somehow, sometimes both of those don't match and meet. So Careerly's goal is to give military spouses and people that are hiring a single portal platform where they can match and talk to each other and get these jobs out there, and companies to actually look at military spouses as a viable option for filling those jobs, because military spouses bring a lot of skills and diverse experiences to the table. So I am going to try to walk through the demo here of what we built. So it's a very rough prototype. This is a view of what a recruiter or somebody that's hiring is going to see. It shows all the candidates that are available or looking for jobs. They can then filter based on specific criteria. For example, looking for a full-time job, technical profile, and then showing the results. It'll filter out the different profiles that match whatever filter that they selected. And then if you click on any of these specific profiles, it'll give you a little bit more information. And if you want to go dig deeper, you can definitely click view more details and get more information on that specific candidate, as well as reach out to them. So that's as far as our demo goes. But you can imagine from the other end, military spouses can create accounts. They can then create a profile, link their LinkedIn to it, and or upload a resume. The future product that we're thinking about is that we're going to provide a job board, job site where military spouses can actively apply for jobs instead of waiting for somebody to reach out to them.
Thank you.
2 minutes is really short. Thank you.
All right, 1 minute for questions. Any questions, judges?
Where do you see the next step in terms of the first iteration to go live? How do you envision that?
So really the first step is just creating a portal where people can sign up and create their profile. Very limited, be able to sign in, sign up, create a password, link their LinkedIn, upload a resume or create it from scratch, and then have more and more spouses come in and create profiles. From on the other end, we're also trying to reach out to different companies and folks that are looking for referrals that they may want to sign up as well to look at those profiles. So really, it's building the app and building the relationships to get more people to get into Careerly.
And
Do you
no, go for it.
do you see this being limited to spouses or other family members? How are you going to differentiate?
For now, definitely military spouses, because there's a lot of available resources for military members, service members, but not so much for the military spouses. So our focus really is military spouses right now.
What's your tech stack?
This is our demo is built in React Native.
Where do you see the tech stack growing to?
On the consumer side, mobile is really important. But on the company side, a desktop will probably be a better user experience for recruiters.
But in terms of besides, where do you see the platform to be in and stuff like that?
I think just building in JavaScript and React is something that would be like an easy platform to start out with. I don't know how it would look like for like the back end or other things or for scaling. I know Azure has like a really good app deployment pipeline that we could take advantage of.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
MilSpouse Info Hub?
Just leave work, just right on it. Put on the square one.
Minecraft or I don't know. Is it a matchy clicker? Does it plug it in?
What's the second group's name?
Let's say if I have to pull up my other laptop, we can do that too. No, it's not there.
You guys do anything specific to get your stuff up? Other than plug it in?
We're having a moment. We have a display port in. That's it. Because if not, I can bring my laptop over that has an HDMI port. I'll get it.
It's got the.
Where did you grab the other device?
Kevin, can we have help, please?
When I can send anything else over there. It's like,
I'm all in.
You are doing everything right. Sorry, I just want to double check that.
Oh, geez. Okay. Does it go now?
There it is.
Hey! All right, we're back in business. Yeah, can I have the clicker, the jigger? If not, I can poke it real quick. Okay. Sweet. So can I just open it from here?
You can actually do this thing bottom. You can actually flip. There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can click through it. Okay. Fun fact, I've never actually done this through Microsoft Teams before. And this is not the one with the Office license on it. So I would like to introduce ourselves. I'm Allie. We have Sarah, Jackie, and we have Lana, and then Ashley from Military Spouse Technology Academy joined us online. And we'd like to talk to you about MilSpouse Info Hub, which is a resource directory for military spouses and their families. So joining the military changes everybody's life, okay? Your spouse goes to basic training, drinks info through a fire hose. You move somewhere where you've never lived before, and they in process, and it's death by PowerPoint. Now, your husband comes home, your spouse comes home. What did you learn today? They're not going to tell you. You're not going to know. And there's a bunch of information that you need to know on living your life. And there's a lot of tribal knowledge. You can go to the Facebook page and you can ask. You can make internet search after internet search, and it's segmented, and sometimes the information's not very good. So the solution is to condense it into one place authoritatively. And so that's what we did. We made MilSpouse Info Hub. It's going to be a really simple UI. We're going to have 6 subdivisions that are going to have your quick resources that will have what you need to find and what you need to know. Right now, it's a web app. We coded it up. It's going to have general information, and that's just your standard information that can go across your service. I need the TRICARE website. I need the region where my TRICARE is located, because of course it's going to be different overseas. And then we're going to have base-specific information. This is the building where the asset or the resource is. We can also release it out onto a mobile situation. As far as extensibility goes, eventually you can add your international bases. Maybe there's different bonuses like foreign language resources or things along those lines. But the nice part is it's segmentable and pretty easy to launch because this data is static, and if it moves at the speed of the federal government, which is not very fast, and it could be updated as needed. Anyway, I'd love to take your questions. You all right?
Yeah, I was eating a Skittle. So how are you getting all this information?
So a lot of it is scrubbable. The nice part is quite a bit of this information is online, but as I said, it's info search after info search after info search. It's never somewhere that you need in one place. So once you scrub it and you make sure at least there's a clear, data type, it should be ready to go. And it's, like I said, it moves at the speed of federal government, so it's relatively plug and play. It can be easily added to or removed
My
from.
question is more of where are you finding this information and who's putting that information in?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And so finding this information is a lot of things. There's official-based websites.
Yeah.
There are separate websites for some reason on the family readiness side. And there are separate resources for NAF. And there are separate resources for the contracting organizations that are on the base. And again, they're in all sorts of different places. And it's a decision of what is authoritative enough to decide what's in this. And that would be on our end. And then a person can check that on the base side as well to verify.
I have another question.
Okay, please carry on.
Have you thought about using crowdsource to find that information?
We have, and then the issue that we have is when you roll into a Facebook group associated with a base, it becomes very, very crowdsourced. It becomes very weird, very fast. And if we wanted something crowdsourced, we would have gotten onto Facebook and gone to the spouses page, and we weren't about that. So this is a different resource that's much more hard data and less your opinion.
That was accurate.
Yeah.
So my question is a little more in terms of, are you going to be pulling the data down directly and storing it in a database, or are you going to be actually pulling it from the website each time a user needs it?
That would be
how would
pulled and
you-
stored in a database.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to load on that
Yeah, I was thinking about high availability. So.
end. Ooh, no.
I'm gonna ask you the question I asked everybody so far.
You betcha.
What's your tech, what do you see your tech stack be? And it doesn't have to be Microsoft, believe me.
Oh,
I just
trust. I will not pander. I refuse to pander. So do you want to talk about that, Sarah?
Yeah, okay. So for our mock-ups, we use like Bootstrap for this one, but we're going towards like a content management system like WordPress and Azure, something like that. So it's more manageable and it's more easy, it's efficient, more efficient.
Everybody good? Excellent. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, third group is rank up. You guys ready?
So we don't want to take a photo or two of us?
which they then.
I think for the presentation, that
They can just have the website, fill over. Whether it's AWS or anybody else.
There's two remote groups separate.
Hello, my name is Avi Banerjee. I'm the team lead for Ranka. A recent RAND Corporation study really highlighted the plight the military spouses have to go through just to maintain gainful employment. Besides having historically low unemployment among military spouses, they may be better qualified for the specific job they're seeking and still be underpaid compared to their civilian counterparts. And beyond that, they can be underemployed, meaning they're overeducated for that job. So what can we do to mitigate or solve this problem? RankUp uses the latest machine learning techniques through natural language processing and deep learning to curate a list of jobs, education recommendations, and career pivots just by analyzing someone's resume. How does it work? A military spouse uploads a resume, our machine learning models analyzes that resume, and then the recommendations are returned back to them. Sarah's partner has just received PCS orders to move from Norfolk to Bremerton. She's concerned about the higher cost of living in Washington State. So how can RankUp help her get a jump start on that job search? She goes to her application, decides to upload her resume. Once she's uploaded her resume, from Google Drive. Our machine learning models start analyzing her resume. Right off the bat, we have a resume sentiment score that highlights what her resume is doing and gives her job matches right off the bat, currently in Seattle or in the Bremerton area. Beyond that, the career opportunities highlights career pivots she can do that is a path of least resistance for her based on her current resume. And the education recommendations at the bottom are resources to actually achieve that career pivot. Our technology stack relied heavily on Python for scraping the data that we needed, as well as the deep learning and machine learning applications. We also used jQuery Bootstrap and used the Google Cloud backend. For future work, we've actually filed a provisional patent for a recommendation engine. We did a preliminary search and did not see LinkedIn or anyone else use this, so we filed that. We'd also like to expand our data set for the training of our machine learning, deep learning models and apply to Techstars in the future. We have, there should be pictures of us there.
Stand underneath.
Yes. There, yeah. We're rank up turning transitions into opportunities. Thank you.
How are you going to deal with user security?
That is a very good question. So for us, we were going to use AWS for this case, but in a previous hackathon I did a couple weeks ago, I used GCP, and I think within GCP, they for certain aspects like with Cloud Run or PubSub, they actually are HIPAA compliant. So they're, just from being that compliant, they're already taking their users very seriously, right? There's some other applications we can do to actually scrub some of that information before we analyze the model beforehand.
So you're going to do machine learning on device? Are you doing?
No, machine learning is happening in a Docker container in the cloud.
In the cloud.
So all you're doing is uploading your resume, and basically through our front end, it's carrying that over through PubSub, getting that to a Docker container where all our Python machine learning is at.
How are you handling? How are you? Sorry. How are you planning on handling scale as that scales out? You're going to get a lot of you're going to get a lot of CPU usage. How do you?
Exactly. So in AWS or Google Cloud Platform, you have to decide what type of instance you're going to be using. We would have to make sure we have an instance that's scalable in the cloud. And beyond that, we were thinking of using a parallel processing package within Python that would make the machine learning models more efficient because we're doing both deep learning and NLP at the same time.
What kind of data did you use to train your ML?
So through NLP, we're just through our NLTK packaging, we just are removing stop words, punctuation, big parts of speech tagging. On the deep learning side, what we did was we used Google AdWords for the positive negative sentiment, but we also curated about 1,500 resumes that actually had like a like they passed to the next round of.
They got an onsite or whatever.
They got an onsite. So it was basically a binary classification for
that. I want that data. How'd you get that?
So we actually created it ourselves. So I have a number of very, very cool friends, which are, I'm gonna have to give them a case of beer for doing this. I gave them, yeah, I'm pretty cheap. I gave them basically over 1,000 resumes, and they go through thousands of resumes in a couple of days. So I gave it to them yesterday, said, hey, go through these. These are just resumes that I scraped online, and just do, would you pass it on or not? Would you pass it or not? And it's
Those are very good friends.
Yes, very good friends. I had about 5 of them do that. So we did that. So we had a binary classification if they move on or not, and that's how we trained it.
How will you expand that research to a broader?
Right. So that's an excellent question. So we just defaulted because of the time constraints for a binary classification. But what we really want to do is actually have a scale. So rather than a binary classification, okay, that resume sentiment score that we had, we want to get to that level. Like, okay, based on your current resume, based on this deep learning model, you're at probably 60%. Here are recommendations to really scale it up. Okay. Or rank up, sorry.
You gotta stay on brand.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You.
Okay, due north.
This is very cool.
I'm liking these projects.
That is my. I was thinking that. I need
Oh, they have.
I'll join this.
Or it's right here.
Right, you have your phone?
Yeah, this looks good. When they're for my fingertip.
Oh, I got you.
These my, these are the other efforts.
Okay.
We're all from the same cohort.
Because obviously there's a tag on you, I got in trouble, I saw
Cool. Okay. So unfortunately, we face a huge problem in the military where we have over 20 suicides a day. That's over 7,000 a year among active duty and veterans. We wanted to kind of drill down and get to the bottom of this with data. So we put out a short survey last night, got about 60 responses, exactly 60 responses. And we wanted to find out what is stressing out the military community, veterans and their family members. We were hoping to get a little bit more insight on what was actually stressing them out, but it seemed to be a fairly broad range of what we had all expected. So what it really came down to was the unknown. People are stressed out by what's happening next, where am I moving to? I've never been in this place before. What should I be thinking about? That's really giving people a hard time.
Yep. So when we looked at our target market, obviously pretty big. We know that although we're looking at the military right now, we can see it going into other markets too, like women in tech. They're looking for this kind of product, which is called Due North, a peer-to-peer mentorship app built to assist military families. The aim is to start out in small groups on military bases, go in there and start communities. And small groups, like I said, of different people who can go on and create their profiles. And you can be on as a volunteer, and you can also be on looking for support. And then we have actually, if you can go back one slide, we have a pulse check too. That's kind of trying to take a pulse on what's bothering you today, or what do you, what are you feeling today? And from that, we can actually curate answers or curate topics into the topic section up at the top. So on the next slide, we have just an example of if you're a mentor and you sign up as a volunteer, you can come in. Somebody can reach out to you and chat. You can just mentor them quickly if they're just like, what's a good neighborhood to live in on this base or something like that. So that's Due North. We have a website. We did not start coding yet. We wanted to take a step back and actually survey everyone and see where the real problems were before, and kind of look at design, user experience before we jumped in to start coding.
Do you have questions? All right, so I'm going to ask the question I've asked everybody. So I know that you haven't started coding, but what are your ideas in terms of design of tech stack? How do you, are you going to be mostly mobile? It's going to be just kind of like, it's not have to be depth, just kind of an idea.
Sure. Yeah, we're focusing on a mobile app to start. Everybody has their phone right all the time, and so that's kind of the thought there. I think iOS, just because there is a bigger audience there, we know that. And then for the back end, just something that's completely scalable as we grow.
I have a couple questions. So first, you mentioned topics. Where will you pull those topics from? Are they going to be generated by the community, like forums, or are they going to be kind of provided by you guys as kind of like starting conversation?
We'll start with a set number of topics. As we pull that pulse check and the data from that, we'll be able to curate and create better content to fit into there. But it's supposed to be a way to offer up, I guess, information to the users and also to help them connect with others.
In terms of volunteers, are you going to have some sort of vetting process to make sure that these aren't like trolls or people who are
Right. I
going
think
to make the issue worse?
I understand that concern for sure. The idea is that you actually pay it forward. So you're both on the app as someone looking for information, but also paying it forward. So it's pulse check, connect, and pay it forward.
Following that, will you have a reporting system for people who are on there and
Yes,
not
absolutely. Necessity.
Go ahead.
So on that same topic, you talk about volunteers, right? You provide some training for them. Say, for example, if someone says stress and they make like an ideation of some sort. You get some training volunteers on how to get
Sure. I think when we say volunteers, it really is more just a community. And so the volunteers is just the way we differentiate one side from the other. Someone who's looking for information versus someone who can provide it. And the way that we're doing that is through a pretty hefty onboarding, which hopefully doesn't get too onerous on users. But when you're onboarding, you're saying, I am a psychologist, I work in tech, I am a female, I am this or that. And so we're trying to build profiles and build an algorithm that matches you based on your profile.
So are you only matched with one person and that's the only person you talk to?
No. It's not up anymore, but you actually have on the home screen when you come into the app, there's a tab for topics, and that can show you things related to what you've answered in the pulse check. And then there's another tab that on the right hand side shows you people you've matched. So I built my profile, and as I answered through pulse check, these are people that we're matching together.
And follow up, if there's a mentee that keeps coming to questions and lots of questions and lots of stuff, and they don't maybe seem to either, they can get to the point of harassing the people, or the opposite of like, they may not be getting the help they need because no one can give them the right information. How would you deal with that?
I think we have to have reports and triggers in place for someone who is using the system really hard. And as we grow, we'll have to figure out, do we have a specific team that reaches out to them and says, we see you're using this really hard. Is something missing? Is there a hole? Where can we fit in so that, because if they're using the system so hard, they're either having a very good experience or a very bad experience, right? And so we need to figure out where they're at in their user journey and kind of adjust on the fly.
One final question. All of this is very private, very important, secure information that people want to keep to themselves and want to be confidential. How will you deal with kind of making sure that these are people who connect on your site are not necessarily going to share that information, take screenshots, do that kind of thing, but also how are you going to kind of deal with backend security? Or is that something you thought about? And if it's not, then that's fine.
For sure. Yeah. I think when we think about security, especially in the military, we're very protective of our data. Obviously, when you're going into an app like this, you have to realize that is compromised in some way. That's just a trade-off. That said, I think we need to look at apps like Signal and things like that and what security practices they have, because that's the #1 messaging app that we use in the military right now. So looking at examples like that, I think will help us.
Thank you. Pocket PCS.
Pocket PCS?
Yeah, they're coming up.
Hi, everyone. All right, so while Isaac's getting set up real quick, I'll introduce my team. So I've got Julie and Miles, Isaac, and Zach, and myself. I'm Steven Martinez, and most of us are from MSSA. Where should I stand here? Most of us are from MSSA down in Lacey, and Julie kindly came on to help us keep us on track. Okay, how many people here have PCS and had the lovely experience with PCS? Perfect. I needed that information. Otherwise, it would have been completely pointless. All right. So PCS is one of the most stressful things that a military family can go over. Isaac. So what we decided to do was build Pocket PCS. And the whole purpose behind Pocket PCS was how to get all the information that's required to include the big thing is how much money am I going to get and how much money am I going to spend to do this PCS move. So on this page here, what you do is you basically put in some simple information. I'm starting here on this date. I'm getting here by this date. And then a couple of other expenses that we'll have in there. They'll be mostly this is expenses that we're sure we're going to come across. And then we'll hit submit. And then you get an actual, your results are, here's your allowances. minus what your expenses are, and then what your leftover is or what you are currently have left. And that'll help you keep on track throughout every stage of your PCS, which is generally several days worth of driving and staying at hotels, etc. We'll also take into consideration things such as partial ditty, full ditty, partial, like you're doing it yourself, the Army's helping you, or the Army's doing the whole thing, or your military service. So all that'll be taken into effect. The big thing is here we're scraping, or we're pulling all of this information from all the regulations and all the other websites, and everyone who says like all that stuff is coming into one spot, so that you have the money and the actual information sitting there right in front of you. And then finally, for the stuff that we don't anticipate, we're going to build in an expense as you come across it. Okay, so then as you're spending this money, you're putting in, this is my topic, this is my item, and how much it costs, and then it's still maintaining that running expense tracker for the PCS. All right, so this is actually this is real. This is up right now on our GitHub, so it's actually moving a little bit slow, but all right, I think that's it.
Hi.
Hi.
So this is going to be an app that people are going to want to use in a continuous way. So they're not necessarily always going to have access to a cloud database. How would you handle people wanting to update their expenses when they're not connected?
So they would.
Are you storing it on device or?
We would have to store it on their device. So this is what you're seeing here is obviously the web, but we would also have it on a mobile app that goes with it. There's a lot to be said for having it on your desktop, but when you're actually moving, you don't have your desktop. It's in a box somewhere. So we would have a mobile app, and they would have to store that data offline, and then as you come online, it would
It would basically cache.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to word it. The expensive section looks, if you go back to it for a second.
This one?
No, the expenses.
Oh,
yeah.
That reminds me.
I'm curious. Every time you put that in, you were putting in the start and the end. Is this like for where you are that day and where you ended that day, like in the car, or is that your PCS move? Like, for instance, if I'm moving from Virginia to California, that's my California move. So I would put it all in one thing, and I wouldn't want to have to keep putting it. It's Virginia, California. I'm just curious if y'all thought about that.
I think the original idea for this was to have special threads for specific moves. So somebody who's PCSing from Fort Benning to JBLM would be able to go onto that thread or message board or forum, and everybody who also did that move would be able to offer some valuable information for unexpected expenses.
So this is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
This is information that's more for like collective everybody. Like, say you moved, and so like these are like additional tips that she was like. We also got extra fees or allowances for apparently cat food. And so it's like an additional resource.
I thought it was kind of here, and I want to keep my receipt for this because I'm tracking how much I've been spending. That was unclear.
Apologies.
I was just curious. Okay. Well, I'm glad I asked the question because I misunderstood why it was there.
So my next question is, where are you getting the estimated expenses from? Are you taking kind of like a estimate of what it takes to kind of like what the average hotel room is like?
So no. So when we say what your allowances are, is that what you're asking?
Oh, but then you do a kind of like estimated expenses.
No, that's actually, so that was hard coded in, but it's going to be actual calculation. Okay. So every PCS, you're going to be authorized, you have this much money, per diem, DLA, all that jazz.
Yeah.
And all that jazz is the hard part. So right now it's hard coded. Eventually we'll get to the point where it's like you put in these locations, it does the mileage and it does the whole thing.
Oh, okay. That was
all
my
right.
question.
So yeah, does that answer your question?
Somewhat.
I want to expand on that piece that you just said. What do you see like the future of that being? Like what other things would you add into the app to say like, how do you know how long you can drive from place to place and then where you stay and
Right.
I want to put ideas in your head because I'm now thinking of ideas. In my
So, well, no, so we've gone through all that. So that's all mandated by regulation. So technically, it's all mandated by regulation. The Army says you have X number, and I say the Army because I'm Army guy, sorry. I mean all services. You have X number of miles that you're authorized to drive per day. If you go more, no one's going to get mad at you, but you have to make at least that much. So that's how you get into the allowances.
Really?
Yeah. So I think it's 300 miles, but we didn't get into any regs. So
Every do 1 mile a day, and it would take you a year.
I'm
working on it. I'm trying to get it.
Because you're paid per diem. So on your travel, you're paid per diem. They're going to pay for, say, 5 nights. But if it takes you 6, that's 6 nights out of your
And you have your report by day.
Yeah.
So I've always seen it as you have this many days to get there.
Yeah, but it's like it's a defined amount by mileage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all regulation. So we would pull it, and whether or not you could scrape it or API, I doubt there's an API, to be honest with you. But we would have to pull that information, put it in, and then be able to pull that information from.
Would you see something like helping them plan the move and plan the places they could stop and plan the hotel?
Yeah. So ultimately,
prices, find VRs for them. I'm thinking of this is where you've got me today.
Yeah. Yeah. So no. Do you want to talk to message boards a little? We had the same thought.
So we had a stretch goal where we wanted to create like a message board so like people could make comments of like maybe you can crash on our couch, and so you'd be able to filter by like staying at locations or being like, hey, I found this great deal on our move. And so like it's similar to the additional expenses, but you'd have like a message board with like places you could stay, and then have like all these people who provide like prices or rates or offer up their couches or stuffs to be able to help them if they wanted to plan it, and like reach out to them or contact them. Kind of stuff.
I have one more weird question based on the same thing, and I know I'm taking up too much time. So for my personal experience of PCSing, we moved across country 3 times, and we always go through Texas because I'm from Texas, so we always stop it. Something that not everyone knows when they go across Texas is once you leave Fort Stockton, you better get to El Paso. There's nothing in the middle, and it's like a 4-hour commitment. So I'm just curious, like having that information, knowing that people like where they need to stop and where, like having things that like, did you know? Do you have like tips, like if you're making this something that's like a forum based, would you put tips on there or use that?
It'd be probably some sort of filter of like you're going from so-and-so location to so-and-so location, and so it would provide any tips that are related to it. So that's why like part of the entries was like where are you going to and from, so that like if you're leaving this location, FYI, there's 4 hours, and it could be like a thread of like you're gonna have 4 hours. Make sure you go to the bathroom. There will be no pit stops, etc.
Yeah, I've done that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it'd be encompassed in the message board.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, how much?
For what? I wanted to try.
Hello everyone, we're Team V Home View. I am Jingjing. This is Hyung-hee. This is Aula. Our project is a website as a platform to assist service member veterans and spouses in home search and purchase using VA loan. The issues we encounter, especially for the first-time purchase, is the VA loan factors are complicated. As my experience, I was lost in what is the discount points, how to use it, how much the interest rate I'm able to obtain, how much is the home insurance, and all the factors. How does that affect my monthly payment? In our website, we provide the functionality to calculate the overall cost and the monthly payment of mortgage cost. We provide the breakdown and visualization of the monthly payment and then total costs, as well as a amortization schedule to list the payments and remaining balance in each month. We also want to show service member how much of the house they can afford to purchase.
So when we built this, we wanted to be servicing this to the lowest common denominator, but be able to bring them up, right? So for instance, I'm currently going to be and am looking for houses right now. So this is not for just people looking for a house, but any type of property. We're going to be taking the price that they're looking for and based off any type of loans, as well as V loans, right? We try and take that and calculate that so we can tell them the monthly payment and visualize it. We're also going to be doing the same thing with affordability. So based on what they're being paid, we'll calculate that with any debt that they have and anything that they have to monthly bills to tell them, hey, this is what you will actually be able to afford in your price range. And then in property, which we didn't get to, we want to go ahead and take the Zillow API and show them only those affordable properties within the area that they're looking for, so they can only be able to have a refined search for what they for the properties and houses that they want to be able to purchase. So we got some functionality in here that you can go ahead and put in house price, down payment rate, choose your loan period, and it'll tell you monthly payment based off that. And we want to create a better visualization so we can show the user, what exactly that they're going to be spending their money on, where it's going to be applicable to.
Thank you. Questions? There are a lot of apps like this that take in all of this information. And what is the uniqueness about your app?
So the difference is, now there are plenty of apps out there just like this, but the thing is like, okay, you're going to find a house for $300,000. Where's that $300,000? Why is it $300 house? Why is that the one you're looking for, right? How much you're getting paid per year? Okay, let's take that. Okay, let's take what kind of debts you have. Okay, we're trying to refine that process. Okay, we're taking someone who has no knowledge, no financial background. Okay, and we're gonna make it as easy as possible. We're gonna go ahead and explain everything to them. What exactly interest rate, what home insurance is. We're gonna break it down so it's super accessible. You could sit down anybody in front of it. They could put it in minimal user interface, and they'll be like, okay, this is what I can afford. Okay, and we're gonna refine the process. So you can go on Zillow, you can put in $300,000 house and look for it. That's fine, but is that really what you can afford? Like where are you putting? Where's that dollar sign coming from?
So you're not really showing that here, though, right? So this looks like just calculator. Where's that?
The Zillow, yeah. So we didn't get to the Zillow API, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, like the questions that you're asking, and like to come up with that $300,000 price. Where's that? Like, how do you find?
So that would be an affordability, which is one of the other things. We only got the monthly payment calculation. That's next step that we want to get to, right? So we're gonna have a breakdown. We're gonna have the user sit down. What are you getting paid yearly based off your zip code? What taxes are you getting paid? What do you have to pay? What are your monthly fees? So whatever the user does not have to input, we will input for them. Okay, based off location, federal tax, stuff like that, to make it as clean, as simple as possible. Okay, we're trying to refine that process.
Okay. So you're trying to go create a flow where you're changing the paradigm of just looking for a house to it would be affordability, payment, property kind of flow. I mean, you started with, and that's fine, I get it, but you're trying to change the conversation of just looking for a house or to the financial question is, how much do I make? What are my costs and what can I afford?
Yeah. What can you afford and live comfortable? Because a lot of people purchase houses, get loans, and next thing you know, they can't afford it, right? Financial housing crisis was a real thing. So trying to make sure that's not a thing with this, with a very minimalistic user interface, lowest common denominator, that's where we're going.
Do you see some education links to existing stuff to not only for them to give you information, but to educate them to the process?
Can you
for example, I see the vision. You make it very simple, but sometimes people need more context. to understand and the flow from it.
Yeah, so we're gonna, that's another feature I want to add to it. Yeah, so I want to be able to explain everything to the user, again, as if he, in layman terms, nothing fancy, right? Just as if he was, if you're a kid in 5th grade and you don't know anything, break it down and have everything explained for you, right? That I want that handheld lateral learning experience at a one-stop shop.
I think for myself, I bought a few houses with VA loans, and I think the thing that I didn't understand at the get-go was how much do you get in a VA loan, and then the fact that you can actually split a VA loan between two houses, and things like that. Yeah, you can do
That's
that.
the feature we want to add. Refinance using the
Not everyone knows that.
the remaining entitlement.
Right.
We want to expand our program to be a smart program that can calculate variety of options.
I was just curious if you had thought about that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
And we want to make
Now
this
you know. Yeah.
small, simple, mobile friendly, so you can have it on your desktop, on your phone, any place, anytime.
Thanks. Thank you.
Post-it.
But even more financial one-on-one. That's actually. They're all separate and really, that's the thing that I really like about this whole idea of financial management.
Which one is this?
Posting.
Post.
It's not a executive, it's not a. Everybody. It's not, it's just not.
You wanna record or something?
Yeah, right.
Sure. If I record it,
They don't- they don't- they're like-
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I second that.
Yeah, exactly.
So how's it going?
Hi.
Hi.
We are Post EP, and what we are trying to do is grow our community through event planning. And we're trying to empower. We have a vision to make it grow, but it's based on a family readiness group model, FRG groups, which is basically the communication between a unit commander and spouses. And what we want to do is provide a platform that allows community group leaders to create events and then ask for what they need. And then people can come back and sign up for what they need. We know there's a problem with employment, there's a problem with uncertainty, but we still can find fulfillment. And this is just one tool we can use to find that fulfillment. So Paul is going to demo. And let me cut you off. I'm sorry to cut you off. We want to have push notifications so that there's push communications so commanders can push out information. Where sometimes there's a block between commanders and dependents. So we want to remove that block so that commanders can communicate directly with the people that they need to.
Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead with the demo portion. So here's our website, Post AP. It's currently hosted on hackathon-postep.azurewebsite.net. It's currently deployed online right now, sitting on top of Azure. People can come into the website. They'll have to register first. Once they register, they'll go click on login page, and I'll do a test login with my test account.
So basically, you have to register to gain access, and we thought about making it secure so that there will have to be access codes, so we don't have things just listed out there. So we thought about that. It's still a lot in the works.
So we have all tech support here too. So
That's
we
okay.
will
That
get it
means,
done.
so that means that you develop code and it's working like it's supposed to in the middle of the presentation. Fail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good.
So basically the idea was once we're able to log in, folks can create and edit events. Folks can broadcast events, they can request help and they can gather resources. Now, on those 4 topics, the one that we were accomplished was creating and edit events. Now, the hope for creating and edit events, our targeted users are mainly company commanders, FRG leaders, community leaders, and basically folks who register our app by email. Once they can create and edit events, for example, if a commander wants to do an FRG event, for example, in December, they can create an event, they can broadcast it, and that will go out
And
to the
create a checklist for what they need. People can come back and sign up, and then it's very efficient. We have the party, we have what we need, they get the information that they need. It may not always be parties, it may be something more substantial, but it's communication, it's building community,
correct.
basically.
It gets broadcasted. Second one is requesting help. For example, if a soldier is in a training and
I'm sorry, it's time for questions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds different than Sign Up Genius. Okay, Sign Up Genius gives you the ability to have an event and put in things you need and let people sign up for it. I use it. My kids' school uses it.
I think remember I talked to you yesterday. So what's special about our application than other application is that we focus more on military, right? Besides event, we're able to broadcast communication, like for example, FRG leaders or commanders directly to military spouse. And of course, you have to like log in, sign up for an account, and all those pages are not listed. It's all basically with authentication, and it will be broadcast through that way. And with the event, it makes it easier for user base that we have with the military to actually create an event. And from the event, like you said, using the app, basically. But we have also the same concept where if I want to have Halloween party, boot bash, FRG, last month or something, and I need 40 pumpkins. I'm the one that created the event, but I do need someone to like bring in 40 pumpkins. So whoever that I invite for the event will have visibility for the event, and they could directly say, I could bring 40, or I can't bring 40, but I could bring 5. And that goes to not only bringing items, which is gathering resources, but also volunteering opportunities, and a lot more that you could do with it.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
In terms of design, there are different types of events geared towards different types of families. There are children and spouses. Would you offer some sort of like tags, or because I personally wouldn't want to get the events where like it's all geared towards kids. How would you solve that issue?
That's something we haven't discussed, but that's great, and we would put that in our backlog to make sure that we brought that up. And it's not necessarily, I guess we're selling it like it's all for parties, but we're talking about like if spouses are working late and there's something going on, and they're going to be busy for a while. Just notification like that, and if you don't like that, you can opt out. Okay. Or if you don't like this type of event, and that's great. I like the tags.
And obviously, the challenges that we actually talked about before creating the application is that quality time is one of the challenges with family members, especially a military spouse. And then we're talking about financial. And then we're talking about fulfillment and empowerment. So how do we address these challenges is that quality time usually is not about the soldier, because soldier, what we do is actually just kind of like, if we have to go for training, we have to go for training. But what could be improved is actually communication between the chain of command.
That's the main issue that we're trying to.
That's the main issue that we're trying to focus on. However, through that, with financial, is that money is always kind of tight for family members that only have one income. But to create events like that, we're able to actually pull resources together, just like the app you mentioned with kids. And we're able to pull resources and make an event a success event.
And to keep strengthening that community, to build the relationships and keep on building them.
So is this just, so when you say like it's for the commander or the FRG leaders or whatever to push messages out, would you have the ability to make like a forum, or like would there be comments underneath?
Definitely.
They could ask
We had
questions?
talked about
Or is it just for pushing information out and not for getting anything
For
back?
now, it's for pushing out, but we talked about having a button for like contact me, and then you could write a message and get directly to a commander or whoever, you know, the leader, whoever the leader is in this particular case. Because we don't want to make it, we want to make it more generic. But to illustrate what we were envisioning, I thought I'd throw out the FRG.
Yes, no, it's definitely
And
important.
that application goes to like
MWR.
FRG, MWR, ACS, CYS, all military and non-military related communities on posts.
Thank you.
Male spouse careers?
That was online.
Oh, never mind. And
No advisor was online.
male advisors.
That's it?
Okay, guys, great job. So we're gonna let the judge deliberate for 5. You guys need more, do you need more than that?
10 to 15 minutes. Y'all go get something to drink or something.
Yeah.
Should we, is there somewhere else?
10 minutes.
We should like go and do a sponsor if you want.
Yeah.
10 minutes. Be back at
Give out some challenge coin files with judges.
3:40.
If we need more time, can we tell you?
Yes, just message, just message.